Today, we're getting into something pretty exciting, the race for the 2024-2025 European Golden Shoe.
Yeah, the ultimate award for goal scorers across Europe, isn't it? Always fascinating to track.
Absolutely. And it's not just about, who scores the absolute most goals overall. It's about consistent finishing in the top leagues.
Exactly. Consistency is key.
And for you listening, this is, I think, a brilliant way to practice your English comprehension. We're using a topic, football, that loads of people follow.
Right. Lots of specific vocabulary, but in a really engaging context.
So our mission today, break down who's leading, who the main contenders are, and crucially, how this whole golden shoe thing actually works.
That coefficient system is key. We'll definitely unpack that.
Yeah, let's dive right in. We're looking at the standings as of Friday, April 4th, 2025. Leading the pack right now, Mo Salah.
Liverpool's main man.
Yeah.
Still going strong.
Yep, 27 goals for Liverpool in the Premier League. That's in 30 appearances. And Liverpool, they played 30 out of their 38 games.
That's a phenomenal return, especially in the Premier League. We talk about players having a phenomenal season. That phrase definitely applies here.
It really does. The consistency at his age in that league, it's top quality.
And year after year, too. That's what marks him out. Playing against tough defenses every week makes that 27 goals even more impressive.
Hot on his heels, though, Robert Lewandowski for Barcelona.
The seasoned campaigner. Never count him out.
He's got 25 goals in La Liga from 28 games. Barca are on match day 29 out of 38.
And he's won this award twice before, right? He knows exactly what this race is about. His goal-scoring instinct is just, well, it's still razor sharp.
Definitely. And La Liga, that's one of the top leagues, so his goals get that extra weighting.
Exactly. That factor of two we'll talk more about. It boosts his standing significantly.
Okay, then we've got a bit of a logjam. 3 players sitting on 22 goals. First up, Kylian Mbappe.
Now at Real Madrid, of course. Big move.
Yep, 22 goals in 27 La Liga games for him. Real Madrid, same situation as Barca, 29 games played.
He's maybe taken a little time to fully settle, find his absolute peak form in the new setup, but the talent is just undeniable.
Oh, for sure. Maybe a bit behind Salah and Lewandowski right now, but you wouldn't bet against him closing that gap quickly. Explosive player.
Definitely one we expect to be right up there for the Golden Shoe year after year going forward.
Also in 22 goals, Harry Kane at Bayern Munich.
Mr. Consistent himself. And he got those 22 in fewer games. Just 25 appearances.
Good point. Bayern have played 27 of their 34 Bundesliga matches. His move seems to have worked out brilliantly, purely in terms of goals.
He adapted to the Bundesliga so fast. And Bayern look like they're cruising to the title again, don't they?
Yeah, 8 points clear with 12 games left when that analysis was done. So this could finally be his year for a major team trophy.
And crucially, he's the reigning Golden Shoe holder. Won it last season.
That experience must count for something. He knows the rhythm of this race.
He absolutely understands the week in, week out consistency required. Every single goal matters.
Okay, the third player on 22 goals. Maybe a slightly more surprising name. Matteo Retegui.
Atalanta's main striker, having a fantastic season in Serie A.
22 goals in 28 games for him. Atalanta played 30 of their 38. For him to be keeping pace with guys like Kane and Mbappe, that's seriously impressive.
Especially in Serie A, which, is traditionally known for being quite tough defensively. He's really burst onto the scene.
A real surprise package, you could say. Shows his potential.
Absolutely. Finding the net that regularly in Italy speaks volumes.
Right. Just behind them, on 21 goals, we've got Mazur Ousmane Dembele at PSG.
Interesting one. 21 goals and 25 appearances in League One. PSG have played 27 games.
He seems to have found maybe a new level of consistency this season. This tally is already better than his previous best seasons.
It feels like he's finally delivering on that huge potential we always knew he had. Getting regular games in a strong team. It's clicking for him.
Definitely clicking. And also on 21 goals, Erling Haaland.
Manchester City's number 9. Though he's played a few more games, 28 appearances for his 21 goals. City, like Liverpool, have played 30 league games.
Now, here's the funny thing. By his ridiculous standards from last season...
Yeah, people are calling it a relatively quiet season.
Exactly. Which is mad, really. 21 Premier League goals is still a fantastic return for almost any striker on the planet.
It just shows how absolutely extraordinary he was in that first season, doesn't it? It set the bar incredibly high.
Maybe defenses are focusing on him even more now, trying harder to shut him down.
Could be. But still, that goal instinct, it's a massive weapon for City. He can score at any moment.
Okay, so that gives everyone a snapshot of the leaders. But we've touched on it a few times. It's not just about counting the goals, this coefficient system. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So the European Golden Shoe uses this coefficient, basically a multiplier, to try and reflect the fact that, well, scoring in some leagues is harder than others.
Makes sense. A goal in the Premier League probably is harder earned than in some other leagues.
That's the idea. The top 5 leagues, according to the UEFA rankings, and that's currently the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, the Bundesliga, and League One, they get a multiplier of 2.
And those UEFA rankings, they're based on how clubs from each country perform in European competitions over, the last 5 years.
Exactly. It's a measure of the overall strength and depth of the league. So if you're in one of those top 5 leagues, your goal count is doubled for the Golden Shoe points.
Right. So Lewandowski, we said 25 goals. That actually means 50 points in the Golden Shoe standings.
Precisely. 25 times 2. Whereas a player scoring in, say, the Dutch Eredivisie or the Turkish Super League, those leagues have lower coefficients, maybe 1.5, for example.
So their goals still count, obviously, but just not quite as much point for point.
Correct. It's an attempt to value goals scored in theoretically more competitive environments more highly, to create a fairer comparison across the continent.
Okay, that clears it up nicely. It adds a really interesting strategic layer to the whole thing. Now, let's rewind slightly. We have some analysis from around early March, about a month before these latest standings. How did things look then?
Well, even back in early March, Mo Salah was right at the forefront of the conversation. People were saying he might be having his best ever season, even at 32.
Wow. And his goals were seen as crucial for Liverpool's title challenge.
Yeah, absolutely vital, especially with the context of Klopp leaving and Arne Slot coming, and Salah's form was seen as key to maintaining momentum.
And Haaland. Back in March, he had 20 Premier League goals.
Yeah, and that's when the relatively quiet description really started cropping up. It just puts his incredible 2023 season into such sharp perspective. His benchmark is just ridiculously high.
It really is. What about Kane back then? He had 21 Bundesliga goals at that point.
For Kane, the narrative was slightly different. Yes, the goals were flowing, but the big focus was on him potentially winning his first major team trophy, with Bayern already looking very strong in the league.
And the fact he was the current Golden Shoe holder kept him firmly in the discussion too, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. Being the reigning champ always keeps you in the spotlight for these things.
And Lewandowski.
Yeah.
How was his situation viewed in early March?
He was making waves because by that point, he'd already surpassed his best ever single-season goal tally for Barcelona across all competitions, 34 goals. 21 of those were in La Liga, making him top scorer there at the time.
That's incredible consistency, isn't it? To move leagues later in his career and still be that prolific.
It really speaks volumes about his professionalism, his dedication, and just his enduring quality as a finisher.
Now let's talk about a name that might have caught people by surprise, especially looking at some slightly earlier rankings, like one from a French perspective in late February. Victor Gyökeres.
Ah, yes, Sporting Lisbon striker. He was actually leading the rankings back then, according to that source.
Leading. How many goals did he have?
Get this, 38 goals, which, with the Portuguese league's coefficient, which is 1.5, I believe, gave him 57 points.
38 goals by late February. That's insane scoring.
His record since joining Sporting is just phenomenal. Something like 80 goals in 89 games overall. Just shows you what happens when a striker hits a purple patch.
And he's a great example of how this system works, right? Even from outside the top 5.
Absolutely. His sheer volume of goals, even with a lower multiplier, put him right in the mix. It proves that exceptional scoring anywhere gets you noticed in this race. It can bridge that coefficient gap, at least for a while.
Were there other interesting names mentioned back in March?
Yeah, Alexander Isak at Newcastle was noted. He had 19 goals then and was seen as key for their Champions League push and their run to the EFL Cup final.
He's more than just a goal scorer, too. Brings a lot to their attack.
Very much so. Really talented player who seemed to be stepping up consistently in big games.
What about Retegui back then? Was he already making noise?
Oh, yeah. He was already being flagged as the top scorer in Serie A in early March. 21 goals in 25 games then, and that included one match where he scored 4, what you might call a blistering performance.
4 goals in one game in Serie A. Wow. The February ranking even had him slightly higher, on 24 goals. His impact was immediate.
Definitely. To come into that league and lead the scoring charts so quickly, very impressive adaptability and clinical finishing.
And Mbappe again, just looking back at March. He was on 17 goals for Real then.
Right. The feeling was he was finding his feet, getting into his rhythm, but perhaps the start wasn't quite explosive enough to challenge for the golden shoe this season. But everyone expected him to be a major force next year.
The expectation is always sky high for him, isn't it? His quality is just extraordinary.
No doubt. Once he's fully embedded at Real Madrid, you'd expect him to be a permanent fixture in this conversation. Pace, skill, finishing. He has it all.
It really is fascinating seeing how players from different leagues stack up, especially with that coefficient adding complexity. Gyökeres is such a good case study.
It really is. And those March analyses mention others too. Chris Wood at Nottingham Forest was chipping in. Dembele, we've mentioned. Mika Biereth had an odd season scoring for both Sturm Graz in Austria and Monaco in France.
Right. Players moving mid-season can complicate things.
Exactly. And you had Promise David scoring goals in Estonia, and then Belgium, Alex Tam in Estonia and Slovenia. It shows how goals accumulate across different leagues, even if the points value varies.
And Kursal Piatek was mentioned for his form in Turkey, too.
Yeah, finding his scoring boots again in the Super League. It just highlights the sheer breadth of goal-scoring talent right across the continent. It's not just about the Big Five leagues, even if they dominate the pointy end of the race.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. The 2024-2025 European Golden Shoe race. Well, still wide open, right?
Incredibly tight. Salah's got the lead as of early April, based on our info.
But you've got Lewandowski right there, then that group on 22, Mbappe, Kane, Retegui, plus Dembele and Haaland just a goal behind them.
And crucially, most leagues still have several matches left to play. A lot can change in the final weeks. A couple of good games or a dry spell.
It can flip quickly. And that UEFA coefficient is the ultimate decider, isn't it? It weights the goals from those top 5 leagues higher.
That's the key factor. While a player like Gyökeres might rack up a huge number of goals, the guys scoring consistently in England, Spain, Germany, Italy, or France have that built-in advantage from the multiplier.
It underlines how dynamic football is. Nothing's decided until the final whistle blows across all those leagues.
Exactly. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
So a final thought for you listening. As you follow the end of the season, maybe pay closer attention to where the goals are being scored. Think about whether you agree with how the coefficients value goals in different leagues.
Yeah, maybe even look up the latest UEFA League rankings yourself. See how they're calculated. It adds another layer to watching the win-in.
And keep tracking these players. See who finishes strongest. It's a great way to stay engaged and, of course, keep practicing that football English. Who do you think will lift that golden shoe?
Your passion for the game can make learning English, well, not just easier, but actually fun.
Which is key, isn't it? Enjoyment.
Exactly. And it's fascinating how, our brains work. When you're genuinely into something like, say, the latest transfer gossip or a really nail-biting match, your brain is just much more open to taking in new information.
Yeah.
It's not like forcing yourself through, boring grammar exercises.
No forced march.
It's more like absorbing the language sort of naturally within a context you already get and, importantly, you care about. You're just more likely to notice new words, different ways of phrasing things. It doesn't feel like study, does it?
Not at all. It's just keeping up with a sport you love.
Exactly.
Look, if you're finding this deep dive helpful and you want to keep exploring this whole connection between football and learning English, there's something really simple but really important you can do for us.
That's right. Please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
And it keeps us motivated, honestly, to keep bringing you more content that mixes your love for football with ways to actually improve your English.
Exactly. By subscribing, you'll get those daily updates. Football news, real English, fun content, all designed to help you get better.
So yeah, make sure you don't miss out. See you in the next one.